respected viewers, dear family of dreamers, beloved listeners, there is a silent truth about time. It never stops for anyone, not for the rich, not for the poor, not for those who dream, and not even for those who give up. And somewhere, in the quiet rhythm of passing seconds, a company is earning thousands of dollars every single heartbeat, while most people are still waiting, still doubting, still wondering if their life will ever change. Pause for a moment and ask yourself, what is the difference between those who build wealth and those who spend their entire lives chasing it? Is it luck? Is it intelligence? Or is it something far deeper, something invisible, something that cannot be seen, but only understood with time? Beloved listeners, today we are not just talking about a company. We are talking about a mindset, a philosophy, a way of thinking that transformed an idea into an empire known as Apple Inc., a company that quietly earns around $250 million every single day. But the real question is not how much it earns. The real question is who truly owns it. And more importantly, what can that answer teach you about your own life, your own struggles, your own financial journey? Because, you see, most people grow up believing something very simple, that wealth belongs to them, to the powerful, to the lucky few, to people far away from our reality. I remember a young man sitting in a small room, counting the few notes in his wallet, calculating whether he could survive the week or not. He had dreams, big dreams, but his bank account told a different story. Every night, he would promise himself, tomorrow I will start. Tomorrow I will change my life. But tomorrow kept moving forward. Days turned into weeks, weeks into years, and slowly, that fire inside him began to fade. Not because he lacked intelligence, not because he lacked opportunity, but because he was trapped in a mindset that feared loss more than it desired growth. And maybe, just maybe, you have felt that too. The fear of starting, the fear of losing your savings, the fear of making a wrong decision, the fear that whispers, what if it doesn't work? You see, the world doesn't teach us how to think about money. It teaches us how to spend it, how to chase it, how to worry about it, but never how to build it with patience. And that is where the story begins to change, because companies like Apple Inc. were not built overnight. They were built through years of uncertainty, failure, rejection, and relentless belief. There was a time when no one believed in the vision, when the idea looked too simple, too unrealistic, too risky. But the difference was not in the resources. The difference was in the mindset. A mindset that understood one powerful truth, that wealth is not created in moments of excitement, but in years of discipline. You see, when people ask, who owns Apple? They expect a simple answer, a name, a face, a single powerful figure controlling everything. But the truth is far more profound. No single person owns it. It is owned, piece by piece, by thousands, even millions of people who chose to believe, who chose to invest, who chose to think long-term. And this is where most people miss the lesson. They think ownership is about control, but in reality, ownership is about participation. It is about having the courage to put your money into something and allowing time to do its quiet magic. But here is where it gets difficult, because when you start investing, nothing happens. Days pass, weeks pass, sometimes even years pass, and your money barely moves. And in those silent moments, doubt begins to grow. Did I make a mistake? Should I take my money out? Is this even worth it? I have seen people sell their investments just before they grow. I have seen people give up just before the breakthrough, not because they were wrong, but because they were impatient. Beloved listeners, patience is not just a virtue in investing, it is the foundation of it. Think about this. A company like Apple Inc. does not earn $250 million a day because of one product or one decision. It earns that because of decades of consistency, innovation, trust, and discipline. And yet, we expect our own financial journey to change in a few months. We expect result without process, success, without sacrifice, growth, without waiting. But life does not work that way. I remember another story of a man who invested his small savings into the market, not knowing much, just hoping for a better future. The first year, nothing happened. The second year, he lost some money. The third year, he almost gave up, but something inside him told him to stay, to learn, to improve, to think long term. Years later, that same small investment grew quietly, steadily, beautifully, not because he was lucky, but because he was consistent. Because he understood something most people ignore, that wealth is not built by chasing quick wins, it is built by staying in the game long enough. And this brings us back to the question, who really owns Apple Inc.? The answer is simple and yet life-changing. Those who had the patience to believe, those who had the discipline to stay, those who had the courage to think differently. And now, pause again and reflect on your own journey. Are you trying to get rich quickly? Or are you building something that will last? Because there is a quiet power in delayed gratification, in saying no today so that you can say yes tomorrow, in choosing growth over comfort, in choosing discipline over distraction. And this is where most people struggle. They want the result, but not the process. They want the reward, but not the waiting. They want the outcome, but not the uncertainty. But the truth, the real truth, is this. Every great financial story begins with discomfort, with doubt, with fear, with small steps that seem meaningless at first. But over time, those small steps become something powerful, something unstoppable, something that quietly changes everything. And as you sit here, listening, thinking, reflecting, ask yourself one honest question. Are you ready to think like an owner? Or will you continue to live like a spectator, watching others build what you could have built yourself? Because the opportunity is always there. The only question is, will you take it? Or will you wait until it's too late? Because waiting has a cost, a silent, invisible cost that most people never calculate. Time slips away, opportunities pass quietly, and while the world keeps moving forward, many remain exactly where they started. And this is where the deeper truth begins to unfold. Ownership is not just about buying a stock. It is about transforming the way you see the world. You stop asking, how much does this cost? And you begin asking, what is this worth in the long run? You stop chasing trends and start understanding value. You stop reacting and start thinking, and slowly, without even realizing it, you begin to separate yourself from the crowd, because the crowd always looks for excitement, fast money, quick returns, overnight success. But those who truly build wealth, they move differently. They move quietly, patiently, deliberately. They are willing to look foolish in the short term, to be right in the long term. And this is where most journeys become lonely. Because when you choose discipline, you often walk alone. When you choose patience, others call you slow. When you choose long-term thinking, the world calls you unrealistic. But deep inside, you know, you are building something real. You are not gambling. You are not chasing. You are planting seeds. And seeds take time to grow. Think about those who invested in Apple Inc. years ago. There were moments when the stock did nothing. There were moments when it even fell. There were moments when doubt felt stronger than belief. But they stayed, not because it was easy, but because they understood something powerful. That real wealth is built in silence, not in headlines, not in hype, not in noise, but in those quiet moments when no one is watching, when no one is clapping, when no one is praising you. That is where the real work happens. That is where discipline is tested. That is where character is built. And that is where most people give up, because they cannot see progress. They cannot feel growth. They cannot measure patience. But just because something is invisible does not mean it is not working. A tree does not grow overnight, but every single day beneath the surface, something is happening. Roots are spreading. Strength is building. Life is forming. And one day, suddenly, it becomes visible. The same is true for your financial journey. The same is true for every investment you make. And the same is true for those who chose to become owners instead of observers. But let me share something deeper, something that few people talk about. The emotional side of investing. Because numbers, charts, and strategies are only one part of the story. The real battle happens inside you. It is the battle between fear and faith, between impatience and discipline, between short-term emotions and long-term vision. There will be days when you feel confident, unstoppable, certain, and then there will be days when everything feels uncertain, when the market drops, when your portfolio turns red, when doubt whispers again, maybe this isn't for you. And in those moments, you will be tested. Not your intelligence, not your knowledge, but your mindset. Will you react, or will you remain calm? Will you panic, or will you pause? Will you follow the crowd, or will you trust your process? Because this right here is what separates those who succeed from those who struggle. Not luck, not timing, not even opportunity, but emotional discipline, the ability to stay grounded when everything around you feels unstable, the ability to stay committed when results are invisible, the ability to stay patient when progress is slow. And this is why so few people truly succeed, because they underestimate the emotional cost of building wealth. They think it is about numbers, but in reality, it is about behavior. It is about who you become in the process. And those who win, they are not perfect. They make mistakes. They face losses. They experience doubt. But they do one thing differently. They do not quit. They adjust. They learn and they grow and they continue, quietly, steadily, consistently. Just like a company that earns millions every single day without making noise and without seeking attention, consistency is what creates greatness, not intensity, not bursts of motivation, not temporary effort, but small actions, repeated over time. And this is the mindset that transforms ordinary people into extraordinary builders. You don't need to be born rich. You don't need a perfect start. You don't need to know everything. All you need is the willingness to begin, to stay, and to trust that time will reward your patience. Because in the end, wealth is not just about money. It is about freedom. It is about peace. It is about having control over your life, your choices, your future, and that journey begins the moment you decide to stop watching and start building, to start seeing yourself, not as someone who is trying to survive, but as someone who is slowly, quietly, building a life of meaning, of strength, of financial peace. Because in the end, the question was never just about who owns Apple Inc. It was always about something deeper. It was about understanding that ownership is a mindset, before it is ever a reality, a mindset that shifts you from fear to clarity, from hesitation to quiet confidence, from chasing money to attracting it through discipline and purpose, and you begin to realize that wealth is not something you run after. It is something you align yourself with through your habits, your patience, your consistency, and slowly, something inside you begins to change. You no longer feel desperate. You no longer feel rushed. You no longer compare your journey with others because you understand that your path is your own. Some will rise quickly and fall just as fast. Others will grow slowly and stand strong for a lifetime. And you begin to choose the second path, the path of calm growth, the path of steady progress, the path that may not look exciting, but feels deeply right. You start appreciating the small wins, saving a little more, investing a little wiser, thinking a little clearer, and over time, these small decisions begin to shape a powerful reality, a reality where money is no longer your master, but a tool, a quiet companion, helping you build the life you once only imagined. And in this journey, you find something even more valuable than wealth. You find peace, the peace of knowing that you are no longer lost, that you are no longer waiting for luck, that you are no longer controlled by fear. You are building with intention. You are moving with clarity. You are growing with patience. And that is where true success lives. Not in the noise of the world, not in the applause of others, but in the quiet confidence that you are on the right path. So when you think again about a company that earns millions every day, remember this: its true power is not just in its profits, but in the principles that built it: patience, discipline, consistency, long-term vision, the very same principles that are available to you right now, in this very moment. You don't need to be extraordinary to begin. You just need to be consistent enough to continue. And one day, without even realizing it, you will look back and see how far you have come, how the fear that once held you back no longer controls you, how the uncertainty that once confused you has turned into quiet understanding, and how the person you once were has transformed into someone stronger, calmer, wiser, someone who no longer asks, "Can I do this?" but simply says, "I will." And in that moment, you will understand that the journey was never about becoming rich. It was about becoming ready to handle wealth, ready to sustain it, ready to grow it with wisdom, not emotion. And that readiness is your true victory. Then come closer and listen, not with your ears, but with your heart. Because everything we have spoken about, every story, every struggle, every silent lesson, was never just about a company, or numbers, or even money. It was about you, your journey, your fears, your potential, your future. You see, when you first heard that a company like Apple Inc. earns hundreds of millions every day, it may have felt distant, almost unreal. But now, you understand that such greatness is not built in a moment. It is built in patience, in discipline, in quiet decisions, made again and again, when no one is watching. And the same is true for your life. You don't need to chase everything. You don't need to rush your path. You don't need to prove anything to the world. All you need is a clear vision, a calm mind, and the strength to stay consistent. Because wealth, real wealth, is not just money in a bank. It is clarity in your thoughts. It is control over your emotions. It is freedom in your choices. It is waking up without fear. It is living without constant pressure. It is knowing that your future is being built, one step at a time. And yes, there will be moments of doubt, moments when progress feels slow, moments when others move ahead faster, moments when you question your own path. But remember this: the strongest trees grow the slowest, the deepest foundations take the longest to build, and the most meaningful journeys are never rushed. So do not be discouraged by small beginnings. Do not be distracted by quick success stories. Do not be shaken by temporary failures. Instead, stay grounded, stay patient, stay committed to becoming the kind of person who can not only earn wealth, but keep it, grow it, and use it wisely. Because in the end, this journey will give you more than money ever could. It will give you confidence. It will give you discipline. It will give you peace. And one day, you will realize that the life you once dreamed about is no longer a dream. It is your reality, built slowly, quietly, beautifully, through patience, through vision, through unwavering belief. So move forward, without fear, build, without noise, grow, without rushing, and trust that everything you are working for is already on its way, just taking the time to arrive in a form that lasts forever.